Hi, I'm Janet Raptis, Master Energy Healer and Intuitive Development Coach. And on Tuesdays at 5:15 Eastern, I share tips and tools to help sensitive and people understand their intuition and live a calmer and more connected life. So a question that I have gotten from several people is, how do I create the space to really work with, open up, and strengthen my intuition? And this is not like a one-size-fits-all answer, but the most important aspect of this question is, and this intention, is the intention itself. The intention of I want to strengthen my intuition holds a lot of strength. So the beginning part of this is to really just hold that intention. And now with that intention, you want to go into, well, what does that mean for me? When we have an intention, the more we connect with the intention and the more that we interact with the energy of it, the more results that we're going to see. So for example, if you say, I want to strengthen my intuition, but then you don't do anything to do that, you're not going to see much of a result. And that goes for anything, right? We all know that. So the thing that I really like to suggest is that everybody create their own sacred space. This is actually really simple to do. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to have a whole room to do it. You can if you have that available to you. And if you do, by all means, go right ahead and do that. But if you don't, it can be something very simple. I have sacred space in my office. And I also, at home, don't have an entire room that I can use for my sacred space. And so Scott and I have created sacred space in the corner of our bedroom. It feels a little bit separated the way we set it up. We put a big armchair there. We've got an altar there. So we've, been able to do what we can do with the space that we have. And the important aspect of it is that whenever I sit down there, I know that I'm doing sacred work. I know that I'm working with my intuition, I'm connecting with spirit. So this like Pavlovian part almost, that as soon as I sit in that chair, something happens, right? Immediately I feel more connected. And it's just this little like cocooned space that has been created. In your sacred space, you can have, I suggest an altar, but again, it can be whatever you want it to be. And with the idea of an altar, again, it doesn't have to be, it doesn't have to be a big production. It can be very simple. An altar can be as simple as some stones, a few objects that feel sacred and special to you, something that represents your connection to spirit. And I suggest you play with it. You can, as you work with altars, if you really enjoy the energy of an altar, you can take more time with it. You can learn more about it. You can work more with it. But to start with, the most important thing is just to have it. And it's to have it because that altar is a holding space for spirit. It's a container that it is magnifying your intention and holding the space for you of that connection. And so it will gain strength and power over time. When you have an altar, the more that you work with the space of the altar, the stronger that it will get. Now you can change the altar. You can put different things on it. I change my altar a lot at home, and I have two altars at home. I have one that is in the sacred space that Scott and I created, and then I have another one in one of our living rooms in a den area. And they're both very they both change a lot according to what is going on, according to what my work for the week looks like, according to what my personal intentions are for the week. And so I like to change those a lot. Now the altars that are at work that my space mate and I have are more static. They tend to stay the same. We might add something to them every once in a while, but for the most part they stay the same. But the intention there is that they're holding the sacredness. They're creating a space of where we can feel the sanctity of our connection. So that's the most important thing, really the most important aspect of it. Now, in your sacred space, you want to keep the energy clear, and you want to really go there on a regular basis, a regular and consistent basis, to be there, to spend time there, to pray there, to meditate there. Every time you pray in your sacred space, whether it's a room or a chair, that space holds more energy of the divine, right? Because it's really, everything in the world is of spirit. Everything in the world is of God. But when we consciously work with the energy of God in a space, we magnify what's there. It's like putting it on steroids, it like pumps it up. And that's a part of that aspect that when you sit down there, then you're going to have this trigger of, this is my sacred space. This is what I do here. Also, if it's really cozy and you love it, you'll want to spend time there. Like I know that if I'm feeling stressed out or if I'm feeling emotional, that will be one of the first places I go. I'll just go right into the room and just sit there. I might not even be praying or meditating. I'll just go sit there because it's calming to me, because that space, I can feel the presence of love and the divine there with me when I sit there. But you do want to, as I was saying before I went off on a little tangent, you do want to spend time there. So it can be helpful, I've noticed, for myself and through hundreds of people that I've worked with on this, is that it can be really helpful to set up a consistent time. Hi Natasha. It can be helpful to have first thing in the morning or last thing at night. And the reason I say that is because if you create a ritual around it, it's easier to maintain it. It's easier to be able to know, the first thing that I do when I get up is I go to my sacred space and I connect with spirit. Or the last thing that I do before I go to bed is go to my sacred space and connect with spirit. I have found personally and through others that when it's haphazard, it tends to fall away, because we will constantly say, I'll get to it later, I'll do it later, I'll do it, after work, I'll do it before dinner, I'll do it after, right? And then there's always something. So it's important, if you're really serious about this, it's important to create a container that is helpful and supportive to you. And so that's really being honest with yourself and asking yourself, what do I need? My personal ritual is in the morning, and there have been times when I've gotten away from it, and as soon as I do, I feel stuff start to rattle, and whenever I come back to it, I feel really good again, and the consistency is important to me. So it's the first thing I do, and usually I get up before other people in the house so that I can have that time. So that is, that's the easiest and most accessible way to work with spirit and to start to build your intuition and your spiritual connection. And you can do whatever you want in your sacred space. You can journal, which is a great way to really support your connection to the divine. You can, of course, pray, and you can meditate, and you can do guided meditations. And there's so many different ways that you can explore, that you can connect to spirit to help you strengthen that connection, and find the ones that feel good to you. If you don't like journaling, don't think you have to journal. You do not. But if you do enjoy journaling, that's a great way to do it. If you enjoy working with gemstones, have the gemstones there with you. Set yourself up with activities for connection and sacred space that feels good to you, so that you want to be there. And remember that just because somebody who is a spiritual guru says that he or she does it that way, doesn't mean that that's the right way for you. The right way for you is the way that feels good to you, because if it feels good to you, you'll do it. And if it doesn't feel good to you, you probably won't do it. Joe says this feels like a great way to blast through writer's block. Absolutely. This is a great way to get through any sort of creative block or even stagnancy in your life. If you're feeling like you're in the doldrums, or I feel stuck, or I just don't know what to do, creating that ritual and that sacred space can really help you to break out of that. So I know that when I am taking this time for myself, when I am really nurturing my spiritual connection in that way, my intuition opens up more, my spiritual connection opens up more, my creativity opens up more, and everything in my life feels like it is flowing better. And that is especially true for the intuitive creative energies, but it works all the way across the board. So the other thing I would suggest beyond that, because that's just the easiest thing, but the next step would be to find spiritual activities in your community. These could be, there are tons of women's circles, there are men's groups, There are meditation circles. I know in Atlanta we have a lot of these. And find one and try some that feel better or that feel good to you. And try a few different things to see what you like, because when you go to those places, it's the same thing. So if you go to a women's circle, for example, which is something that I love, and I host sometimes in-person circles in Atlanta, and I host virtual circles, is that when you get in circle with people, you automatically, again, it's a sacred space. It connects you to spirit. And when that happens, everybody, we're all coming together with this intention of feeling more connected and strengthening this connection and understanding it better. And so what happens is it opens up, and the power of the group, it cannot be underestimated. I have had some of the most amazing spiritual experiences and intuitive insights when I have been around other people who are meditating and praying with me and holding this intention of connecting to spirit. So that's another way that's usually pretty accessible. And if you're in an area that doesn't have as many activities as a major city might have, see what you can find online. If you you can set up a group if you have a group of friends, or if there's something happening at a local yoga studio. A lot of yoga studios now have branched out from just yoga and are actually hosting things like meditation circles and women's circles. So that would be another great option as well. And then you can also do something like a retreat. I think that retreats, the same thing is that you're coming together with like-minded individuals who are really wanting and holding an intention for greater connection to spirit. And that type of setting, so we've looked at a few different tiers of not really tiers of connection, but different ways to connect. So you have the very accessible one that is at home, and then you have one where maybe you need to venture out of your home, but you'll be in a group of people. And then, going on to actually going away. A lot of people do month-long spiritual retreats, meditation retreats, silent retreats, like the ones that I host, which are intuitive development retreats, and also spiritual retreats. And so when you go there, you're going there with the intention of connecting more strongly, and your intuition will absolutely, if you're at all engaged in the activity, your intuition and your spiritual connection will be nurtured and will open considerably. So I suggest that, depending on your level of commitment to it, and it's okay if you don't have the time or the energy right now to give a 100% or the resources to give a 100% commitment to it. But it's always possible, in my experience, to find at least 15, 20 minutes a day to dedicate to this. And you will notice a strengthening. You'll notice a deeper connection, even with 10 minutes a day. And then depending on your level of commitment, you can go further and further and deeper in. And as you make those commitments, and the more that you commit time, energy, finances to anything, the stronger the commitment becomes, the stronger the intention becomes, and usually the stronger the sort of breakthrough comes. And that goes with healing as well. I've noticed that a lot, is that, when you commit to a week-long healing retreat, there's a lot of energy that goes into that, and that can lead to a really significant breakthrough that you wouldn't be able to get, over individual sessions, perhaps. So does anybody have any questions? I would love to answer anything that you have. I will sort of mention this. This is sort of a secondary question that I got not secondary, but it's a question that I got that was similar to this question. And so I thought that I would tie it in on this Facebook Live. And so go ahead and feel free to type some questions in, and I'll just share that. There have been several people who have asked me about using alcohol and how much does alcohol interfere with your connection to spirit. And your intuition. And so what I can say to that is, the less alcohol you use, the greater your connection will be. That doesn't mean that you can't use alcohol. If you have a drink every once in a while, that is not going to impact your spiritual connection. If you find that you're drinking excessively or even more than a couple of glasses a day, it will impact your spiritual connection. It is harder. What happens is that alcohol numbs your sensitivity receptors. It's a numbing device, which is why it's typically used, right? It relaxes you and all of that. But as it relaxes you, or as you feel that you are being relaxed from it, it deadens everything. It dampens the sensitivities, and so it's harder for the information to get in. So just know that if this is something that you really seriously want, then you will, and you drink every day or more than a couple glasses a day, that you might want to modify that and see how it changes your connection. When I quit drinking, my intuition went whoosh, but I was drinking excessively. But it really opened up and was quite significant. Even with that in mind, for sensitive people, it might not be just alcohol. It might be caffeine. It might be certain foods. It might be a lot of different things. So notice days that you feel there can be days that you feel even more intuitive than others. And maybe notice what's happening. For me, I'm super sensitive even to caffeine. And I recently gave up all caffeine again. And I noticed that after I did that, I felt more spiritually vibrant again. And so pay attention to but that's not everybody's story. Again, it's not everybody's story, but pay attention to what you're putting into your body and notice some people don't like to eat meat. They think that they feel that their connection is greater when they're only consuming a plant-based diet. There are other people I know who are super intuitive who consume meat. So it is really my belief that what you put into your body is very unique and individualized to you, and how it impacts your body is very unique to you. And so it is to notice what allows you to feel more sensitive and more open, and what maybe closes you down or numbs you a little bit, and then to make your choices based on that. And one way that you can kind of keep track of that is you could keep a little food journal or a little consumption journal and note what you're eating and what you're drinking, and then notice how you feel the next day. Do you feel open? Do you feel not so open? And really just kind of find out that way. You could also, if you do muscle testing, you could muscle test, and that would give you a great idea as well of what might be compromising your system and your sensitivities. Okay, so I haven't seen any questions. So if there are any that anyone can think of right now, feel free to put it in there. I'm super grateful for all of you who joined, and I really appreciate your presence here. And hi to all of you who said hi to me, and to all of you who are watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you all next week. Thank you so much. Bye.